Like, if Bean comes in, a border collie, I'll put the camera on her, and it's then that you wish that the camera quality was better, more for her than me, because she's cute. Now, yesterday I made a video titled "Refuse Them the Conflict." That's like the response to all the propaganda from the clique. This one's going to be about megaphones and labels. I'll start off with the megaphones part. My philosophy is about megaphones. Now, I prefer to use that word to the more academic words that I'm aware of, because I think that megaphones gets across the problem straight away. So I'm not even going to name the academic names. I.e., it gets across the corruption. Megaphones get across the corruption of giving cliques a megaphone and then pretending that they, within the establishment, these different parts in the establishment, are on different sides to one another. The Etonians and the university educated liberal elite, I'm university educated, but I'm not part of the state superstructure, are on the same side when they're in that state superstructure. Obviously, if they're not part of it, they're not. The real opposition to the state superstructure and its megaphones are the masses. That's the opposition. My view, though, is that human history shows that if you just give us the megaphones, then nothing changes. It's all about power grab. So they pretend to be on different sides. But once they get control of the establishment, once they get control of all that machinery, then they cannot resist it. And they're just the same. And they'll use the same propaganda techniques to justify it. And for example, they wouldn't get rid of the news media. They would use the news media. So it's all the same. And they would use the bombs, the tanks, the guns, everything would just be used. They'd use the civil service, they'd use Parliament, they'd use 10 Downing Street. Nothing is different from these people. So bloody obvious. So like I said, there is a massive opposition now, and that is the masses, but once the masses get a victory, they tend to replace rather than to just delay it, and that is where the mistake is made. But that's because power corrupts. We need to take power away from the state superstructure and decentralise as much as possible, because this reduces the megaphones, which it's the megaphones that automatically corrupt. Now, sure, there's other types of corruption, but that is the root, that is the substance, that's the meat. The megaphones. That is because that results in all the other corruption. It gives them that opportunity. It gives them that voice to mislead, etc., and to deceive. It's just it's almost everything, if not everything. And it gives them the power to take over some people's minds who cannot see through it for their whole life. So, for example, a decentralisation. This might be a bad example because on labels, Catalonians are just as bad as anyone, no doubt. I'm not an expert on Catalonia, Spain, but decentralisation, Catalonia with box in their quest and desire, that's for sure. But the labels there, you know, we're Catalonia, yours, might not work. But I mean, like, like I said, I'm not like a dictator on what should happen regarding decentralisation. I just mean mass decentralisation. So take that Catalonia thing with a pinch of salt. Definitely. There's a lot there, and Spanish people might, and Catalonians, but I say that, might say, oh, you don't want to come here. It gives us an example. The history, the violence, you know, because I'm thinking that violence is a tool of the state. You know, stuff like that. Anyway, yeah, Franco. I know that General Franco was once massively involved in that on Spain's side. Oof. Anyway, now what are labels? And labels would come into play on that issue, but we'll leave that. Labels links to power and control. The labels, we'll think of it as a UK perspective and American perspective, please, here, because that's what I'm more familiar with. The labels divide us, and even if they are not created at the top, even if they're not created at the top, they're still used for maintenance of power. You've heard it said, divide and rule. Now, power corrupts by giving the clique megaphones opportunity to reach millions of people, while the masses often cannot reach as many as 20 people. The megaphone propagandists then use labels to divide and rule. So even if they didn't create them, they use labels to divide and rule. There's a science that's been perfected by the propagandist clique, and I can at least see the gist of it. Note, this is not to do with a party politics puppet show. It's to do with a much bigger state superstructure that uses the party political puppet show for its continuation. They also use the propaganda news media and ultimately the bomb for their continuation. I mean, I can't resist getting, because I mentioned I can't resist getting back to that. The state in Spain used force, because I saw it on TV, to come to Barcelona, beat the voters to the ground. Yeah. I mean, there it is. Force, and then they used their authority to arrest the leaders of Catalonia, etc. I mean, it's so blatant when it comes out like that. It's so easy to see. I mean, and we in other countries are going, look at that violence, that's disgusting. But in Spain, it's just their state doing their job. Beat them up, beat them up. So that's the answer. None of this nice pacifism stuff and everyone being united and everyone just being people and all that. No. Beat the living shit out of them. So if the answer to the state superstructure, megaphones, is decentralisation, then the answer to labels is to refuse them the conflict. And that's pretty much where it goes wrong in Spain. And everywhere else. Just more visible, that's all. Could happen here. Now, it's not people like me causing conflict with the state superstructure. I'm not capable of it. It requires megaphones to create collective conflict. It's wholly on them. And that's the video.